But it does need proper attention because if it's untreated, it's linked to high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, and not everyone knows they've got it. So this is what the throat looks like if you can see that little picture. But basically, it's the bit that flaps around when you're snoring, and this is the airway that needs to be kept clear. So you see that when the tongue pushes back, the airway can become pretty small. And when you're snoring, it all starts flapping around. With sleep apnea, it just gets completely blocked there. And that's why breathing stops and you have to do this gasp. So just for your information, the classic thing, if you went to the doctors for sleep apnea, they recommend the CPAP, which is the continuous positive airway pressure mask. And what this does is it forces bursts of air past the obstructive airways and into the lungs. So this is a real lifesaver for moderate to severe cases, but as in the whole medical industry, they're not really treating the root cause of the problem, but it's an emergency solution, and it's definitely better than doing absolutely nothing. The other problem is that people don't like it, and it's a bit noisy, it's a bit uncomfortable, and 80% of people apparently stop using them after 8 months because they dislike them so much. So it is worth looking at other issues, other ways to deal with this. How you breathe all day, every day, will affect your sleep. So this is one big idea I want to leave you with tonight. So your sleep isn't made in the 30 minutes before bed, that obviously you can do extra things then, but it's made all day long. So many of us treat sleep like a light switch. So you rush through the day at full tilt, and you get into bed and expect the body to simply stop. But the body doesn't really work like that. So there are these two settings in your nervous system. There's the sympathetic, that's the fight or flight, the accelerator. So that's, the classic thing of running away from a tiger. Very useful in situations where there is a genuine stress because the heartbeat speeds up, you get this kind of tunnel vision. And people that are in like emergency situations, that's what they describe. It's like they get this absolute focus and all their peripheral vision actually goes out of the window. So it works. And then a lot of the energy gets put into the limbs because then you can run. So there is a purpose to that. The problem is that we tend to be in this far too much in daily life. So then there's the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. This is the settling, this is what you need for sleep. So, and it's also what you need actually for spiritual evolution, because the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, allows you to become aware. So you get this whole spherical awareness of life. So not only for sleep do we need this, but we need this to expand, because you can't expand your consciousness if you're contracted. And the sympathetic, the fight or flight, contracts you. So you've probably heard this phrase, tired but wired. Um, and I actually don't often feel that these days, but I certainly have had that many times in my life. So I do know the feeling of that, where you've had a really challenging day maybe, and you go to bed so tired, but then there's this kind of buzzing energy that just won't let you go. So that's this nervous system that's in a way had the foot on the accelerator all day and it can't find the brake. So this is the shift you need to make, not to try to only cram relaxation into this last half an hour before bed. That obviously that's better than not doing it at all. You want to spend the greater part of your whole day in this calmer, parasympathetic state. And this doesn't mean like you're lying on your back relaxing all day. The idea is to rest and digest within activity. And this is where the breath can really help you with this. So life doesn't stop, and we can't allow life to stop because there's too many balls we're all juggling. But you can be in a rest and digest mode while you're working, cooking, in traffic. And you can begin to do this by changing your breathing. And this isn't about taking in more breaths, but it's about slowing the breaths down, bringing the breath lower into the deeper part of your lungs, breathing through the nose and relaxing your out breath. So those are the four key things, which I'll repeat later on as well. One thing you can do to try and remind yourself, because we will all forget, is you can actually set your alarm once an hour and it just makes a bing noise, and then you immediately just check, right, how am I breathing right now? So this can catch when you're going into this breath holding, or you're doing this shallow breathing up here, which creates so much anxiety and stress for people. Or maybe you're breathing too fast through the mouth. When you get into kind of concentration mode, it's called like email apnea, I think is the phrase, where you've got this continuous partial attention, which 80% of office workers have. That's why it's called email apnea. But also people bring this to their breath. You know, we only have very partial attention, if any at all, to the way we're breathing. So it's good to do that alarm. I would really encourage you to do it, and then adjust your breathing when you hear that noise. Start breathing through the nose, start breathing deeper into your lungs, slow it down. So you can also add in every now and then a few deep breaths at your desk when the kettle's boiling. You know, so then you could take a few like deep breaths, which isn't the normal breath, but it can just push you a little bit more into this rest and digest mode. So if you learn to retrain your breath in daily life, slowing it down during the day, then the night begins to take care of itself. And this did totally transform my nights when I started doing this. So I think most of you know me, and some of you here I see in many of my courses, and it's really lovely having you around. It's like having, you know, family members turning up. But some of you may not know who I am. So I just wanted to introduce myself. So I'm Lucy Pattinson, and I trained as a rebirthing breathwork practitioner over 30 years ago in the States. And at the time, this was the most advanced training in the world. And I've actually done a lot of upskilling since then. I've trained to be a liberation breathing practitioner, which actually took 2 years and a lot of deep diving, and also training in pranayama. And I'm the director of the Who Am I Quest, where I teach various courses, including the Breath of Life. But probably the most important thing is I'm a breath practitioner. So I do practice what I teach. And actually, I wouldn't be teaching this class tonight if I wasn't sleeping well. I sleep so beautifully these days, and I couldn't teach this if I didn't, you know? So I try to practice what I teach, and I do some form of breath work every single day, as well as I've trained myself pretty well to breathe correctly throughout the day, and it has had a huge impact on my physical and mental well-being. So a little bit about insomnia. it's if you try and look up the percentages of who suffers from insomnia, you do get different things coming up. I heard one person say, well, 70% of people have insomnia, others 40 to 50%. But basically, it's a lot. It's a lot of people. And obviously, not everyone has it all the time. We all go through periods of insomnia. I guess it depends how they're defining it in these studies, but a lot of people do have sleep problems. And it's kind of obvious with the way life is these days, where we're bombarded with overstimulation and lots of habits that don't induce a good sleep. So, what even is sleep and why do we need it? Well, sleep is this period of inactivity where all sorts of complex things are going on, physical, chemical functions, and many things the scientists don't even know are going on. But one thing we all know is when we don't get enough sleep, we feel crap, basically. And you can try sedatives, but these can be unhealthy and super addictive too. So unless you're in a completely unsolvable situation, then, obviously try anything. But if you're not in an unsolvable situation, it's best to try and find other ways of doing this that are more long term. So, as I said, we need to think about our sleep from the moment we wake up if we're having sleep issues. Obviously, if you're not having sleep issues, you don't need to be preparing for your sleep from the moment you wake up. But if you are, this is you could say the magic key is you do it right from the beginning of the day and you start doing your day in a way that will start affecting your sleep. Obviously, in the morning, you're raising this stimulus, you have your day. In an ideal world, you're breathing correctly through the nose, deep down. And then at night, you've got this lovely transition from wake to sleep. But as I said, we often spend too much of our day in this fight and flight state, this sympathetic state where certain hormones are released. These are the stress hormones, cortisol, which are released for a purpose to deal with emergency situations. And so, they can be useful in the short run. Gives this mental alertness to deal with an issue. Actually, coffee puts you into this. Coffee is part of why you get so alert with coffee. It adds to this stress hormones being released because it's like, I actually slightly miss it. I used to drink coffee. I haven't drunk coffee for, I think, 3 years since I last had a cup of coffee. And I do actually quite miss that initial feeling. But then I'd have hours of, what's the word, repercussions from it, which is why I gave it up. And often we're in this stressful state because we don't like our jobs. We maybe try and commit to goals you can never actually achieve, and many other things. So we're activating this sympathetic nervous system far too much. So it's good to learn to breathe consciously in life and to breathe in a way that puts you in rest and digest, the parasympathetic. This will knock into your sleep. So the more conscious you are of your breathing when you're literally conscious, meaning literally awake, it'll then affect your breathing in the night. And I know I now breathe through my nose all night. I just know I do, but I haven't always done that. So if you do breathe well during the day, this helps to reset the body in the right way so that then the night can be a place of healing rather than disruption. So you want to do some slow, deep breathing for much of the waking day. And when I say deep, I'm not talking about like big, full breaths. I mean breathing into the lower part of the lungs, because this is the most efficient part of the lungs. So deep down rather than like that. So obviously, unless you need the fight and flight for something, but actually it's amazing how little times most of us in this society need that. Obviously, if you were living in more difficult cultures, you would need it more often. So for the main part we want to just be doing this slow, deep breathing. And this relaxes us in a way that actually we can be lucid in life. And you need this relaxed lucidity to spiritually evolve. So if you start this regular practice of slow breathing, over time, this will start to correct this over arousal we have and that we're constantly bombarded with. And also, if you start breathing in the correct way during the day, it produces the right amount of melatonin, which is what's really gives you relaxation and is an essential sleep-inducing hormone. So that is a familiar noise. Some of you here tonight are not snorers, and some of you are, but even if you're not, you almost certainly love someone who is or know someone who is. And snoring can gradually wear away at a relationship. So I have known many people over the years unhappily sleeping in separate bedrooms or still sleeping in the same room, but having their own night's sleep disrupted. And it's really sad and can damage a relationship that's working in other ways. So it's also important to know that snoring isn't good for your health, particularly if you sleep alone. It's easy to think that it doesn't matter. And snoring doesn't mean deep sleep. It interrupts the REM cycle. The REM sleep becomes very fragmented, and so snorers aren't able to reach the really regenerative deep sleep. What snoring means is that you've got a partly obstructed breathing all night. So those constant little disturbances keep pulling you out of the deep, restoring stages of sleep. So you can sleep for over 8 hours and you still wake up unrefreshed. And over time, that broken sleep wears on your energy, mood, heart, body. Also, the vibration night after night from storing gradually frays the soft tissues in the airway, leaving them loose and floppy, which can then lead to sleep apnea, a far more serious thing, which I'll say more on. So, snoring does often come with some shame, as we tend to picture the snorer as someone overweight or who's had a few too many. And there is some truth to this. Being overweight is probably the biggest factor in both snoring and sleep apnea. But actually, sleep apnea can cause weight gain as well. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle. When you're overweight, then you have more fat around your throat, both inside and outside. And that's also one of the reasons men tend to snore more than women, because they have more weight around their necks on average. And drunk and stoned, yeah, that really does affect snoring because alcohol and sedatives relax the muscles in the throat. So this then begins to restrict the airflow in the mouth, the nose, and throat. Aging tissue that's lost its tone is another one. But there are plenty of people over 60 who don't snore. And for women, the drop in estrogen around menopause is another factor. So sometimes women can begin to start snoring once they hit menopause. And this is partly because estrogen protects the elasticity of the tissue. And it's also one of the reasons women snore less than men before menopause because they have more estrogen in their body. But it's important to know that your muscle tone can be rebuilt. This isn't just your age. So we're going to work on that tone tonight. So in the end, Both snoring and sleep apnea come down to one thing, and this is air being obstructed on its way down the throat. So with snoring, the airway's partly narrowed, so the soft tissues flap and vibrate as the air pushes past. That vibration is the sound. So like you can actually do it on purpose. So yeah, anyway, it's basically it's the sound of vibrating. So that's the tissue flapping, it's mechanical. So some things you can do to stop snoring, simple lifestyle changes can help stop or reduce snoring. Obviously, trying to lose some weight if you're overweight, sleeping on your side. There is this thing of putting a tennis ball on your back so that if you roll onto your back, you know, it's an oldie, that one, but there's a reason for that. You can also get special pillows, bed wedges. Smoking doesn't help because it damages the upper airways. And also you start getting little kind of nicotine withdrawals even during the night, which disrupts your beautiful sleep. Alcohol and sleeping pills, I say they're sedatives, so it starts over relaxing. So sleep apnea is the same story as snoring, but taken further. And this is becoming really prevalent now. So instead of the tissues just flapping around at night with snoring, they actually block the airways and collapse in, and then you completely stop breathing for a very short time. But this can happen over and over again during the night. Then the body panics and drags you up with this great gasp, and you start breathing again over and over all night. So you might wonder if you've got it if, for example, you get a lot of morning headaches, you go to the toilet a lot in the night, if you're gaining weight, and of course, if you're tired. But if it's left untreated, it is quite serious and it can lead to heart attacks, high blood pressure, diabetes. So it's really important to know that serious snoring can turn into sleep apnea over time. So all that vibration gradually damages the soft tissue at the back of the throat until it can't hold itself up anymore. So snoring is worth taking seriously because there is some genuinely some things that you can do about it, basically. So if someone's snoring and you can hear them through a closed door, there's likely to be some breathing disorder there. And if there are long pauses, gasps, or a choking sound in the night, that may well be sleep apnea. And you can get these apps on the phone if you sleep alone, you know, these apps which tell you all the noises you make during the night. So that could also be a way of indicating. But it does need proper attention because if it's untreated, it's linked to high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, and not everyone knows they've got it. So this is what the throat looks like if you can see that little picture. But basically, it's the bit that flaps around when you're snoring, and this is the airway that needs to be kept clear. So you see that when the tongue pushes back, the airway can become pretty small. And when you're snoring, it all starts flapping around. With sleep apnea, it just gets completely blocked there. And that's why breathing stops and you have to do this gasp. So just for your information, the classic thing, if you went to the doctors for sleep apnea, they recommend the CPAP, which is the continuous positive airway pressure mask. And what this does is it forces bursts of air past the obstructive airways and into the lungs. So this is a real lifesaver for moderate to severe cases, but as in the whole medical industry, they're not really treating the root cause of the problem, but it's an emergency solution and it's definitely better than doing absolutely nothing. The other problem is that people don't like it. and it's a bit noisy, it's a bit uncomfortable. And 80% of people apparently stop using them after 8 months because they dislike them so much. So it is worth looking at other issues, other ways to deal with this. So there are some throat exercises, which we're going to do shortly. But let me come back to the breath. So when you go to sleep, these parts of your body start relaxing and narrowing. And this could be your tongue partly blocking the back of your throat. And a big one is when your mouth is open when you sleep. So how does the breath actually help all of this? Well, really, you want to start training to breathe through your nose all day, all night, from the moment you wake up to the moment you wake up the next day, 24 hours a day. And it's so important. The nose prepares the air for the lungs. It's got these tiny little hairs that filter the air, it cleans the air, it warms the air, it moistens it before it reaches your lungs. It also increases the absorption of nitric oxide, and this is a gas produced in the sinuses, and it sterilizes the air, it helps you absorb more oxygen, and it genuinely helps you sleep by relaxing your blood vessels. So let's just do 10 deep breaths. So we're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And you want to extend your exhale all the way to the end, because this also helps with nitric oxide. We're going to be doing more breath exercise later on, but just do this. So you want to breathe until your lungs are really empty. So let's just do 10. So relaxed, extended exhale. So that's 5. Hopefully you can already feel a certain relaxation happening. Just do one more. And then just pause for a few moments, noticing if there's any change in your state. So obviously when you're breathing through your nose, you also have to slow down the breathing because the holes are smaller. So, that automatically starts slowing down your breathing. So what about mouth breathing? Well, this is the body's emergency setting. Basically, if you think about any time in your life, like if you've been in a panic or you've been rushing away, you want to breathe in the opposite. So mouth breathing is the body's emergency setting. It's often you have to breathe faster. It's the body kind of thinking, oh, I need air now if I've got to breathe through the mouth. So it puts you in the fight and flight. So when you mouth breathe all day, you're telling your nervous system there's an emergency all day long. And nose breathing does the opposite. You're not going to run away from a tiger breathing slowly through your nose, are you? So the nose breathing slows and settles you and reduces this stress hormone, this cortisol. So it takes you towards that restful parasympathetic state in the daytime, which is what you need to be building for the night. And this makes a huge difference for snoring. They did an experiment when they blocked people's noses for a week, I think it was, and snoring increased by 1,500%. So they were forced to breathe through their mouth for a week, and snoring increased by 1,500%. So if you're only going to do one action from tonight, try and close your mouth and breathe through your nose 24 hours a day. So mouth breathing also feeds a vicious cycle because you're breathing in this unfiltered, cold, dry air, which gradually actually damages these soft tissues at the back of your mouth and makes them looser and floppier. And then floppy tissues narrow the space. And the less space makes breathing harder, so you open your mouth more. So the more you mouth breathe, the more you feel you have to. And then a lot of people end up being snorers because they've been breathing through their mouths far too long. I trained, as I say, in rebirthing breath work, and that was all done through the mouth when I first trained. I actually very rarely do breath work through the mouth these days, but I've just been on a weekend with my original teacher, Sandra Ray, and we did 3 breathwork sessions, and she still does it through the mouth. So I thought, well, I'll do it, you know. And I really felt like my throat was like sandpaper afterwards. My throat's just not used to it. And it really reminded me how it can damage those tissues. So let's interrupt that cycle from now onwards if you are a mouth breather. So I just want to remind you, snoring isn't normal. It doesn't have to happen because of your age, etc. So if you start training yourself to breathe through the nose, that'll definitely help. It may not be enough to completely eliminate it, but it is a big step forward. And many people can completely stop snoring just by breathing through the nose. So before we move into the practices, just a few practical things supporting your breath, because I know a lot of people do get blocked noses. But you can do something about it. You know, I almost never have a cold now. And if I feel a cold coming on, I do a very simple thing. I can get rid of a cold within 12 hours now. I stick these dilators up my nose, you know, so it's like if they're blocked, I stick them up and I force myself to still breathe through my nose, even if I've got a lot of mucus. And I keep my mouth shut, and and sometimes I actually pull my nostrils open. I just force myself to do it, sometimes all night. But then by the morning, any symptoms of getting a cold is gone. So it works because basically the body gets into survival mode. And if your nose is blocked, then it has to breathe through the mouth, doesn't it? So if you block your mouth, the body thinks, gosh, I've got to start opening up the nasal passages or I'll die. So anyway, it really does work for not getting colds. So we can do something about blocked noses. You can also just literally at night pull your nose open. Obviously, you can't do it when you're deep sleep, but often we're in a semi-sleep, aren't we? Also, drinking plenty of water thins the mucus. You can use these neti pots where you put warm salted water and you just flush out your nasal passages. Really good to do every day. But again, if you have a blocked nose or a cold, it's a really good time to do it, to flush it out. You know, in India, that's pretty normal daily practice. You hear all sorts of noises if you stay in ashrams or centers in India, sort of hacking noises and all sorts of things where they're cleaning out all their passages. The other thing are these, I haven't got one with me, but nasal strips which you put over and you can hold them open. It just opens up the nasal passages. And then there's the mouth taping, which is very fashionable at the moment. People always think mouth taping is like you're totally sealing your mouth, but the best ones are like these, where there's just a cross. So you can still breathe out the corners of your mouth if you need to. So it's not about totally sealing it, but it's just a way of training yourself to do it. I have tried them out. They're comfortable, they're fine. If you have severe or moderate sleep apnea, don't jump into taping. You want to build up to it gently and get advice first. So, and then sleep on your side, because then your jaw and tongue fall forward and your airways stay more open. So this is all about the airways, really. And if you're on your back, then you want to prop your head so that you're tilting your head forward. You don't want to be like that. You know, that is what classically starts closing the throat. And the body actually hates that position. You know, it's like an emergency position in a way. The body hates it, and it'll gradually damage your system. Yeah, so the other thing I wanted to say is some people have been snoring for like 10 years and they know it's a problem, or they've had insomnia for a long time, or sleep apnea for a long time. And you might want to ask yourself honestly, why haven't you solved it? Because there are solutions out there. And I just think it's not a criticism, but it is interesting why we know things and we don't do them. So, you know, we know we shouldn't be drinking caffeine all day, every day if you've got sleep problems. We know we shouldn't be eating big meals late at night if you've got sleep issues, etc., etc. So it's good to ask yourself, what is the part of you that doesn't want to solve your sleep issues? You know, it's just an important question to ask, I think. Do you get more sympathy, more attention? Maybe it's a way of keeping a relationship at arm's length, way of avoiding intimacy. Maybe it's a way of keeping yourself exhausted, so you play small in the world. I remember the first night I slept with well, I ended up marrying him, my husband to be, you could say. He snored, and I thought, oh no. But then the next day we talked about it, and we were both into a lot of sort of self-improvement in those days. And yeah, and he realized he was snoring as a way to push me away. You know, he had intimacy problems with women, and literally from that point on, he never snored again. It was really extraordinary. He just went, got right to the nub of it and stopped snoring. So our body does hold these emotions and thoughts, and it listens when we're ready. So I did want to say that you need to have a big enough reason to actually take action to solve this. And I know some people here will have had snoring or sleep issues for a long time. So it is worth looking at that. So we're going to do some throat exercises now. So we talked about the airway collapsing. Well, these muscles in the airway can be toned just like any other muscle in the body. And it is backed up by research. It's really good to look on YouTube. There's a guy called Vic Veer, so V-I-K and then V-E-E-R. He's got some wonderful material on this. He's an ENT sleep surgeon. So these are actually some exercises from his videos. So people who do these regularly can reduce snoring and mild sleep apnea by a significant amount. So you can do these at home for a few minutes, 2 or 3 times a day, including just before you go to sleep. So I'll teach you a set so you know how. I might regret this when I look at the recording afterwards because I will look ridiculous. But anyway, you want to, when you do these, keep breathing through the nose while we're doing it. So the first one is the tongue, because if you have a weak tongue, it falls back and blocks the airway. So you want to stick your tongue out as far as it'll go. So imagine you're poking it out at someone you're not really that fond of. As far as you can, stick it out. And then lift the tip, flatten it, and hold. I'm glad I'm not the only one doing it. Thank you, guys, those of you that are doing it. So feel the stretch. The second one is you put your tongue out and you move it slowly from side to side. It's actually not as easy as it sounds. The third one is you're pressing the tip onto the roof of your mouth and the whole tongue is flat against it, and then you hold. So pressing the tip firmly up onto the roof of your mouth and then the whole tongue flat against it and hold. And the last tongue exercise is you put the tip behind the lower front teeth and you press the back of the tongue down against the floor of the mouth and hold. So those are tongue exercises. You can rewatch this recording if you want to do them again, or also look at Vic Fear on YouTube. He's great. So the other part of the airway we need to tone up is the soft palate and the throat. So this is the tissue that flaps when we snore. So you want to keep the sound high and bright and say along E, and you feel the neck muscles tighten. E, E. So now feel that lift at the back, like the beginning of a yawn. So you're lifting soft palate and holding. We'll do one more. This is the face. So this is where you hook a finger inside your cheek, gently pull outwards, and then you're using your cheek muscle to pull it back. You want to do both sides. And then purse, next one, purse the lips tight shut, and then release. So I just want to say this is what you really need to be doing. You know, if you need to use a CPAP, CPAP machine, definitely better than doing nothing, but it won't solve the long-term issue. So you want to be retoning all these muscles in the airway. And if you do have issues, do it daily, and then you're actively rebuilding the airway. It'll probably take a few weeks, but it's like the fishing rod and not the fish. So, yeah, so now this is the part where we actually do a breath exercise. Um, it's just like I think it's about 13, 14 minutes long, this breath exercise. So get yourself into a position that's comfortable. And you can do this before you go to sleep or any time, just to start getting into the rest and digest mode. Okay, so let me put this on 1 second. We're going to wind down and relax. Please get into a nice, comfortable position, either lying or sitting. Become aware of your breath and just observe it. Follow your breath. Now please breathe in through the nose for 4 seconds. Hold the breath for 7 seconds. And now breathe out through the mouth with a whooshing sound for 8 seconds. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold for 7 seconds. Whoosh the breath out for 8 seconds. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 7. Whoosh out for 8. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 7. And whoosh the breath out for 8. And now bring your breath back to normal, gently breathing in and out of the nose. Become aware of any sensations you might feel. Breathe now in through the nose, taking long, slow inhale, and then extend the exhale through the mouth, taking long, slow breaths in and out. Long, slow breath in through the nose. Relaxed, extended exhale out through the mouth. Keep breathing in this way. While you're breathing, visualize yourself lying in a garden late in the summer, surrounded by lush green, warm vegetation. There's a quiet hum of vibrant life, calming, relaxing, soothing. Smell the scent of the grass around you. And some beautiful flowers. Keep breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, long and slow. Breathing in the deep green of the nature. Breathing in the peace. Deep, long, low breaths in and slow, extended breaths out, bathed in this beautiful green garden. Feel the boundaries of your body beginning to dissolve in the nature around you. Your sense of time is disappearing. Your sense of space is disappearing. You're floating, present. You're at peace. You are at peace now. This is the end, the relaxation. So you want to come around. I actually wasn't listening totally to that myself properly, and I was doing the breathing all the way through right to the end. It was like, ooh, I didn't realize I was getting people to breathe that long, but I forgot my own prompt to bring your breathing back to normal. So, all right, everyone. I wish you all a beautiful night's sleep tonight, and try something you haven't tried before, or try something you've tried before but do it even better. So, and keep some optimism, hopefully, that it is solvable. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the content, please click subscribe, leave a comment. It'd be lovely to hear from you. We do read the comments, and see you next time.